Hello and welcome to Gypsies Landing. I am so happy to have you here. This week we will be discussing vulnerability. And wow, was I nervous coming on today. And I was thinking, well, the topic is about vulnerability, so that makes sense. Vulnerability is an important subject matter to discuss because it is something that we are all afraid to do, but it is so essential to the human experience. How many of you wish you could have had that uncomfortable conversation, connect with somebody that you feel like you missed the chance to, wishing that you could just put that wall down and be your true self, no matter what anybody thought? I'm Brittany, and I'm your host for this podcast. I specialize in personal development and how to live an authentic life leading from your heart. I want to start today with explaining what vulnerability means to me. I see and experience vulnerability as living truly and entirely from my heart, being connected to my most authentic self. I read this reading yesterday that I would like to share with you on vulnerability. It is from The Language of Letting Go, A Daily Reflection by Melody Beattie. Many of us feel that we can only show our strong, confident side. We believe the face we have to show in the world should always be one of politeness, perfection, calm, strength, and control. While it is certainly good and often appropriate to be in control, calm, and strong, there is another side to all of us, that part of us that feels needy, becomes frightened, has doubts, and gets angry. That part of us that needs care, love, and reassurance that things will be okay. Expressing these needs makes us vulnerable and less than perfect, but this side needs our acceptance too. Allowing ourselves to be vulnerable will help us build lasting relationships. Sharing our vulnerabilities helps us feel close to people and helps others feel close to us. It helps us grow in self-love and self-acceptance. It helps us become healing agents. It allows us to become whole and accessible to others. Today, I will allow myself to be vulnerable with others when it's safe and appropriate to do so. I love that reading because it's sharing how important it is to embrace the good and the harder parts of ourselves. The parts that are hardest to allow others to see. That is what vulnerability resembles. In the past, my experience with vulnerability has been complicated. I feel as though I have always wanted to be vulnerable. I even tried as a child, and I felt that I was misunderstood. I didn't feel like I was heard. And I felt very rejected by those that I tried to share myself with. I was bullied a lot growing up. Rather it was in my neighborhood around friends or in school. I just couldn't seem to be accepted, seen, valued. After a while, I think it's pretty normal that we try to fit in. We try to be accepted, and we lose ourselves along the way. I tried to blend in, and in that, I did things I wasn't proud of. Anytime we try to mold ourselves into something different, the most important parts of ourselves are lost. When I first felt deep connection in my initial relationships at too young of an age, I thought that that was the answer. I was finally going to be seen and connected to, and I tried again and again and again, all throughout school, to be loved, to be seen, to be valued. And eventually I had the biggest heartbreak I had experienced. And I shut off everything that was inside of me that kept trying to get out and connect with somebody. I numbed. I put on this front to the world that I didn't care, I couldn't be hurt, and I couldn't be bothered. I was safe inside of this icebox in my heart. It wasn't until my mid-20s I realized that this way of living just wasn't working for me anymore. I craved something more. That is when I believe I became reborn. I wanted to unbecome all these things that just weren't working for me, and I didn't even know how they got there. How had I become this person? All these ripple effects of hurt and just trying to belong. And in all of that, I didn't belong to me. So if I have a clean slate, well then who am I if I'm not all of those things? And this has started my lifelong journey. For me, I first started to get vulnerable by getting sober. Or even before that, just willing to admit that what I was doing wasn't working for me anymore. Slowly, seeds started to be planted. The old me was starting to shed, and I became willing to admit that my life had been unmanageable living in this way, and that I was powerless over this way I had been living. I was willing to look for help and support to find a new way to live. In this new way of life, I have learned that if I am willing to be vulnerable enough to ask for help and share myself, others are receptive and do the same. I think why that didn't work when I was a child was because I couldn't go to the places I needed with the people I needed to get this kind of support and guidance to make this life change. As an adult, we have a choice. There are so many resources available to us now. Since awakening to the power of vulnerability, it has become so important to me because it has given me that connection, purpose, and intimacy I had always looked for in the past in all the wrong ways. I've finally found the path that worked for me. I have been able to live a more full life from being vulnerable, and I've learned how to love and accept myself more than I could have ever had done trying to conform to everyone and everything else around me. When I look around the world as the majority, I see so many people that don't understand or know how to be. They don't know how to show up. And it is so hard to do that in this world that tells us we need to do and be so many different things. It's hard to find out who we are, what we want, what we believe in. And the only way that we can do this is if we decide to find ourselves and take on the journey of building a true and intimate relationship with who we are. It is hard when you want to connect and experience people fully, but they can't give you what they can't give to themselves. I believe that we were made to experience beautiful and fulfilling relationships. So how do we achieve that in a world that tries to make us so cold, and in so many ways it has succeeded? These opposites of true vulnerability look like the easy way out. They look like the easier, softer way, but they are not. They create so much turmoil, resistance, and separation from ourselves and others. Lately, I have been living in vulnerability through starting something new, trying this podcast, putting myself out there in such a vulnerable and intimate way, constantly trying to figure out what I'm going to choose to share on a public platform and what I'm not. Does my sound good on my microphone? Do I have things set up right? How is my editing? Did I choose the right software? How does it sound after being processed? How is my outline working out? Am I staying on topic? What do other people think? What are my views? Those rambling, fearful, insecure thoughts are a part of showing up vulnerably. Before my first episode, I had such inspiration and drive just to be ready to show up and try. For the second episode, there was fear and discomfort of, was it going to be as good as the first one? Oh, I hope it's better because it has to fit my perfectionist standards. Oh, I didn't get as many views on the second one as the first one. What does that mean? Am I good enough? Did I make a huge mistake? And now going into the third. I thought going into the second was harder, but going into this one was the hardest. There are two parts of ourself. The part that believes in us and wants to see us succeed is willing to go to any length to give us everything we want out of life. And then there's the other side that's a lot stronger than I wish it were. The side that wants to tear us down, the one that wants to say we're not good enough, that we're doing a horrible job, that we shouldn't even try, that we should give up. This dark side that wants to take away everything that would bring us happiness and joy. And the tools I've learned along my journey to this point is that negative side never fully goes away. It never fully dies, and it is a part of the human experience. So I had to build an awareness that it was there, and I had to develop another side that was positive, loving, and light. And anytime that negativity shows up, channel that positive side to talk the negative side down, so then I end up in a better place. So when we do things that are outside of our comfort zone, and maybe even we're questioning how we're doing it or if we're doing it right, and we still show up and do it anyways, that is vulnerability. To admit that we are not perfect. To tell you that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just showing up and going with the flow. I wish I could tell you that I was a professional that had this all figured out and I felt good and okay at all times, but it is just not the reality of where I am on the journey right now. But if I keep showing up, if I sit through discomfort, if I keep that commitment and promise to myself and what I really want, I will get to where I need to be in time. We are allowed to not be perfect. We are allowed to be messy. And that is where we are relatable. When someone tells us that they're having a hard time and they just can't seem to figure something out, and then we're like, yeah, well, neither do I, right? Like that's part of the human experience, and that's why we need one another. And we can't do that when we are not vulnerable. When I talked about how going into this third one was the hardest, I want to start off by saying I got so much love and encouragement. And once again, people telling me that I really helped them and it resonated and was exactly what they needed to hear. But I did get my first few insults. And thankfully, I can say it wasn't on my podcast or about my podcast, but in the direction I'm headed, I also have to advertise and I have to stay active on social media so people get used to me and want to build a relationship with me and want to follow me and support me and be a part of this vision and this dream that I have, because I can't do it without you. And one day I hope to get to a point where I can also record these podcasts live on videos, but I'm just not there yet. It's vulnerable enough talking to a microphone with my eyes shut the majority of the time, but talking directly to a camera like that, that's the next level of vulnerability. So I've been trying it in small increments, recording videos to post on social media, little clips, and trying to build that comfort to get to where I want to go. But the negative comment was on there on my social media videos. The comment asked if there was something mentally wrong with me because they thought that I talked too slow and that they found it really annoying. That was vulnerable for me to share that comment with you because as soon as I saw it, I deleted it because I was fearful that other people would agree and other people would jump on that comment. And then not only would I have been hurt by one individual, I would be hurt by many. And then another comment I had asked me if I go to the gym with all of that makeup on, if it would melt down my face. And rather it was just ignorance or trying to get me in some way, it obviously stood out enough for me to remember, as my friend said. So on that comment, I tried to think of something cute to say and say, no, primer and setting spray helps with that. And if you're so interested, you can try that yourself, because it appeared that that comment came from a man. So I was trying to be funny about it. Although those comments did not take away all the wonderful comments that I received about how much I helped them, they did hurt me. So not only was I questioning and doubting myself, feeling insecure and unsure of what I'm doing because I'm so new and I'm a student of all of this, and I'm trying to love myself and build up myself and believe in myself in the process, those comments validated everything that I feared, that I'm not good enough. Isn't that what is on the other side of us not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable? To say, that hurt me. Ironically, both of those comments happened in the same day. So that night, I decided to spend some time with me to remember who I really am. I made a list. On one side, I put what I have succeeded already, and on the other side, I listed goals. So I can celebrate the accomplishments I've already had, and I can see what I hope for myself or where I'm headed so I can build those things over time. On the success side, because this is the truth, I have already impacted other people's lives for the better, whether I know it or not. I inspired people, I motivated people. The fact that I even started this at all, that I'm continuing to show up no matter how hard it gets, and if it gets harder, even more so deciding and promising that I am going to continue to show up, that I'm trying new things, getting out of my comfort zone, being an awkward, weird student, and freaking loving it because that's where I grow. That I'm listening to suggestions or ideas others may have of me. I'm being open and willing. That I love so much myself and all of you. That I want to do this. That I'm leading from my heart so authentically. That I'm allowing myself to be imperfect, that I'm doing something for me, that through this I'm loving and building a relationship with myself even more, that I'm putting me first by prioritizing what I want for myself, that I respect me enough to do that I dream big enough to do different things, that I take action and follow through, that I'm inviting supporters with me along the journey, that tribe that will help lift me up when I'm struggling, that I'm going to meet new friends and build new connections as I go on this path. Because another reason of this is I want to find a community that believes in the things I do, connect with those people that share the same values and interests. But most importantly, the success out of all of that was after those mean, hurtful comments, I prayed for them that night. Because the truth is, if you are hurting that much to tear other people down, like you are not happy. Like I said, we give what we have. Successful, happy people don't tear other people down. They love them, they support them, they encourage them. So that was a reflection from within themselves that I wanted to take personally. And at first I did, but then I was able to see the reality of it, and I was able to let that go with love. Hurt people hurt people. So I do pray for those people, and I send them love. If we can't show up different in this world, what is the point? I choose purpose in my life to show up better and to do better. And then that makes me feel better about myself. What I learned from this past week is that people are going to be quick to judge and criticize, try to tear me down, try to throw me off my path. And the truth is, that means I'm doing something right. And I understand where they're coming from. When I was in the way of myself to start my dreams these last 5 years, and I saw other people accomplishing theirs, I too got resentful because there was dreams within me that I wanted to pursue and try too, but they were doing it and I wasn't. So that feeling, that jealousy, that discomfort was a reflection back into me. We are all mirrors for one another that bring us back to ourselves. I learned that this is only the beginning. I am going to continue to show up, and I am going to get people that don't like me and will want to say things to get me off track, and that is okay. I will love you all anyway. My skin is going to get thicker and I am going to get tougher. And not only will this help me heal all the woundings from my past of not feeling good enough, not feeling accepted, not feeling understood, feeling judged and criticized. And my God, do we all do that enough to ourselves? But I am going to love myself in the most secure, authentic, wonderful, fulfilling way because I am going to continue to choose me and love me that much more through any negative and hurtful comments I get. We can't get stronger if we are not tested. I am stronger than I could ever know, and you are too. I'm learning how strong I really am, how much I really do love and commit to myself in so many ways that nobody else ever could. Love will always outweigh hate if we focus on the truth of who we are. That dark side will always lie to us, and that light side of us will always show us our truth. Remember who you are. The risk of hurt is worth vulnerability because it gives us the deepest, most meaningful gifts we would ever want, what we have always longed for, and what we need. I have read so many statements about when people are at the end of their life dying and they are able to share what they would change about life. It is always about showing up in a truer, more fuller way, spending more time with the people we love and expressing to them how much we love them. How often when people are gone out of our lives, we wish we could say and express things so differently than we ever did or knew we wanted to before when they were around. Don't live with that regret by not putting that wall down. We become more vulnerable by showing up and doing the hard thing, by allowing ourselves to get uncomfortable and be imperfect. But I promise, after the hard feelings and experiences in the vulnerability, you will be given so much love, connection, and support. And I'm telling you, if there is a hole or lonely part of your soul that needs to be filled, only love can put it there. Only love can fill it. We are now going to enter into the reflective questions. Reflective questions are so important because it gets us thinking in a new way. These are questions that you probably have never thought of before and have never answered. So by doing these, you are going to get to know yourself more. So feel free to pause after each question, do a journal entry about them, and please feel free to reach out and share them with me in the comments, or feel free to message me directly. The first question is, in what ways can you be more vulnerable? Do you see the value in vulnerability? Would you like to experience vulnerability in your closest relationships? If so, why? Do you believe this change towards vulnerability can start with you? After everything that we've discussed here today, it can feel so weak when you're doing it, but then you feel so strong after. You are proud of yourself and you love yourself more by showing up in that way. That is strength. That is courage. That is bravery. That is discipline to be able to show up in an uncomfortable way and do it anyways. To be authentic. I believe that the ability to be vulnerable is in each and every one of you. You are all so beautiful in such a unique way, and this world needs you. Lean into what's true and lean away from what's not. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Small changes will make the biggest differences. Just take that first step. Now we are going to go into the affirmations part. The reason why affirmations are so important is they help develop that lighter side of our brain, that positivity. They help us believe in ourselves and talk good to ourselves. The more we do these practices, the more that develops, and we can fight that negativity when it arises, because it will. It's a part of the human experience. So develop your backup. Be your own best friend. And stand up for yourself, to yourself. Feel free to repeat these in your head or out loud. I give love to the part of me that is scared. I believe in my capability to be more vulnerable. I accept my full self and share all of me with those I trust. I live with my heart wide open. This is the part where I'm going to pray for you. So please invite in your God, your higher power, your Mother Earth, your Father Fire. And I do this because if nobody else has prayed for you, I will. God, I pray for the listener on this podcast today. They have stuck through and listened for a reason. They are craving more vulnerability within themselves and within their life. Maybe they were once that child that I was that felt so alone and rejected and misunderstood. I pray for the courage for them to show up in their true, authentic way. You made them perfectly, exactly as they are, and I pray that they see their worth and their value to not conform and to step into their truth, because their truth is powerful. They are powerful. And I pray that they do something big for themselves this week and take the smallest step in that direction to seek the change they desire. It just keeps getting more real here on Gypsies Landing. I will promise you that I will continue to show up more real and authentic than I even knew possible either. So if you are liking where this is headed, or you are like, my God, this is an interesting journey and I want to receive more, please hit that subscribe button and make sure to leave a review. Reviews really help get these podcasts out there so more people can find them too. I am so proud of you for showing up and spending this time with me. And I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday when we talk about a new topic that resonates with me this coming week. Until then, live well and be happy.